this guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Questions orales. Oral questions, the Honourable Member for Leeds Granville, Falcon.
9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime's up, and time's up for this Prime Minister and his de facto Finance Minister, Carbon Tax Carney. Since taking on the role, the friends and business interests of Carbon Tax Carney have benefited with billions of tax dollars. $2 billion for his buddy at Telesat and Brookfield getting a seat at the table to get their hands on 10 billion Canadian tax dollars. Suddenly, Carbon Tax Carney is raising funds for these Liberals in exchange for all of those billions. So will they cooperate with an investigation from Canada's lobbying commissioner?
The Honourable Minister of Flavors.
Well, Madam Speaker, the Death Valley well driller is poking more dry holes. Outstanding Canadians stepping up to advise the Liberal Party or any party is a very good thing. But what this member wants to cloud is the fact that, Madam Speaker, inflation's down, interest rates are down, wage settlements are up, the economy is up. We've reached a soft landing in this country. They should stop talking the country down. We're going to continue lifting the country up, Madam Speaker.
For Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Like all Canadians, I wish that every time we looked for a scandal, it wasn't just surface deep, like the Public Safety Minister found guilty of breaking the law, the Prime Minister broke the law, the Trade Minister broke the law. These guys can't help themselves. And now he wants to tell us that Canadians have never had it so good, and that's why they have Carbon Tax Carney, who's lining the pockets of his friends and himself, all so that he'll raise a little cash for a dying Liberal Party. Canadians have absolutely enough after 9 years of their corruption and grift. So why won't the Prime Minister subject his new de facto Finance Minister to the conflict of interest regime? Is he worried that he's going to be found guilty of breaking the law too?
Honourable Minister of Labour.
Madam Speaker, the predictions of impending doom coming from that member in particular and his political party really sound discordant to Canadians. What is happening across this country, Madam Speaker, is that after the pandemic, we've achieved that rare feat. A soft landing, no recession, wage gains, inflation coming down, interest rates coming down in this country. The Finance Minister this very week putting in place measures that will make young people more able to purchase a home. Madam Speaker, these are things that you do when you...
Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Let's talk about what they've achieved. Record lineups at food banks with 25% of Canadians not knowing where their next meal is coming from, not able to heat their homes. A third of food bank users being children. They are starving and freezing in the dark after 9 years of this NDP Liberal government and their carbon tax on everything that's being boosted by Carbon Tax Carney, who's only doing it, of course, to raise his stock portfolio, which we saw with Brookfield stocks hitting 6 months high in exchange for policies from this government and for him fundraising for them. Canadians are broke. These Liberals broke them. Let's have a carbon tax election.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Well, Madam Speaker, Canadians know where this government stands. We've offered immediate and direct support to families, especially when they needed it most. We've delivered household savings and significantly strengthened our social safety net. And we've promoted fairer practices, greater competition across our industries. Notice, Madam Speaker, real solutions and zero slogans from this side. Well, I guess that's just the Liberal government for you.
Breaking news. The Rcmp Commissioner confirmed that the Prime Minister's hand-picked directors to the Green Slush Fund are under criminal investigation. So what we have now is the Liberals not only defying an order of this House to produce the documents and turn them over to the Rcmp, Liberals are now obstructing justice by refusing to cooperate with the Rcmp investigation. 9 Green Slush Fund appointees have been implicated in funneling $400 million to their own companies. Are Liberals obstructing justice so their cronies can avoid jail?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I am disappointed in the Conservative Party's approach, and I'm not alone. If you take a look in terms of what it is that the Auditor General of Canada is saying and the Rcmp is saying in regards to the Conservative tactic, and people should really note this, they are extremely uncomfortable. You have caused a great deal of discomfort to those independent offices because of your behavior here on the floor of the House of Commons.
The honourable member to speak through the chair. I hope I haven't caused anything to anyone. The honourable parliamentary secretary.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would suggest to you that the Conservative Party needs to be more sensitive and listen to what the RCMP.
The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
This House is listening to the RCMP when the RCMP commissioner said yesterday that he's investigating the corruption at the Green Slush Fund. You know, they use as an excuse the Charter. The Charter does not exist to protect Liberals and prevent and create obstruction of justice opportunities. As Liberals cling to dear life to the secret documents, they obstruct justice. Hundreds of millions of dollars have already been funneled to Liberal cronies. What's the true number? Is it billions? Is it 2 billion? Will the Liberal who is obstructing justice and knows the true amount of
the honourable parliamentary secretary.
Speaker, instead of the Conservative Party playing games at a great expense to Canadians, solely focused on their party fortunes and anything else, as opposed to trying to do filibusters on the floor of the House of Commons, why don't they listen? Listen to what the RCMP, listen to what the Auditor General is saying, Madam Speaker. And what they are saying is this Conservative tactic causes great concern, and it's justified as the Conservatives are trying to blur the whole issue of judicial independence. Shame on them.
The honourable member for Calgary Heritage.
Of rights and freedoms, not the Charter of crime and corruption, as the Deputy House Leader seems to contend. 9 years of NDP Liberals. Taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. Guess what? Conflict of interest is up too. At the Liberal Green Slush Fund, the Auditor General reported 82% of transactions, nearly $400 million poured into the pockets of Liberal insiders. The House demanded the government hand these documents to the RCMP. The Prime Minister refuses. How many more millions of dollars, taxpayer dollars?
Well, parliamentary secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, I would note that the member made reference to the Charter of Rights. You know, yesterday I heard Conservative member say that parliamentarians should have the right to put people in jail, Madam Speaker. They have no credibility when it comes to the issue of the Charter of Rights and protecting judicial independence. They are literally laughable yesterday in terms of their performance on this issue. They should be ashamed of the way in which they throw to the side the independent offices of our RCMP and they walk on the...
Honourable member for Calgary Heritage.
Madam Speaker, the Charter protects people from government, not politicians from prison. I think that the Deputy House Leader would be well advised to think about how every parliamentarian is not above the law. While Canadians struggle with higher taxes, grocery prices and housing costs, Parliament halts. Yet Liberals still hide the truth, refusing to release documents. 2 million people turn to food banks. Liberal insiders get rich. The RCMP investigates. When will Liberals comply with the RCMP, stop obstructing justice, and give Canadians their money back?
The honourable parliamentary secretary.
Speaker, I realize the member across the way is relatively new. Let me give him a bit of a refresher. Let me talk about Conservative corruption, the anti-terrorism scandal, the Phoenix scandal, the G8 spending scandal. Remember the gazebo? The ETS scandal, $400 million. The F-35 scandal. What about the Senate scandal? Not to mention the election scandals. Madam Speaker, there's a plural on that one because one of their members actually went to jail. Madam Speaker, we don't need to be taking lessons from the Conservative Party of Canada on scandals. They led the way.
After 9 years of these NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, corruption is up, and time is up. Now it's confirmed that the RCMP is doing an investigation into this Liberal Green Slush Fund. $330 million of taxpayer funds was paid out in 186 cases of conflicts of interest. It is despicable that Liberal insiders lined their own pockets. Those who broke the law must be brought to justice. So when will this scandal-ridden government hand over all the documents to the RCMP and recover every last dollar of embezzled funds?
The honourable parliamentary secretary.
Madam Speaker, I would pose the question, when will the Conservative Party actually start respecting the independence of the RCMP? When will they take and start respecting the independence of the Auditor General? When will they actually start to work for Canadians inside the House of Commons by stop talking so that we could actually get on to government legislation and do what the resolution or the motion that they brought forward, and that was to see the bill or the motion actually go to the standing committee, Madam Speaker.
For Red Deer Lacombe.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time is up, and incompetence is up. The Minister of the Environment ignored the science, and as a result, Jasper burned. The proof? His own executives were caught discussing cancelling prescribed burns for political optic reasons. Yet prescribed burns are an essential tool for preventing wildfires. Will this minister accept responsibility for his failure and apologize to the 2,000 residents of Jasper who have lost their homes and their businesses?
Minister of Environment.
What the member opposite just said is simply not true. And if I wasn't in this House, I would probably be using another word. There's been 15 prescribed burns in the last 10 years, Madam Speaker, and the email he's referring to are Parks Canada employee discussing whether or not to use mechanical removals or prescribed burns. What he's saying is absolutely false, and he should be ashamed, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, the Minister of Environment claims to be proud of his preparations for the catastrophic Jasper wildfire, yet 1/3 of Jasper was destroyed. $1 billion in damages. 2,000 people homeless. It can hardly be described as a success. Everyone knew Jasper was a tinderbox. My former colleague Jim McGlinskey even tried to warn the government in this House as far back as 2016, yet not enough was done to protect the town of Jasper. How many more parks need to burn down before this minister is replaced by somebody who knows how fire works?
The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
Talk about what we're doing on this side and what they did when they were in power. The last year that this party was in power, $2 million to fight forest fires with Parks Canada. What we've done in the last few years, $85 million to help fight forest fires, to give means to our forest firing force at Parks Canada to work with the Alberta government, to work with the city of Jasper. $2 million on their side, $85 million on our side, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Madam Speaker, the Minister from Edmonton misled committee when he testified that he had no communications with his shady business partner at or around the time of an alleged $500,000 fraud implicating a Randy. But when phone records demonstrated that that wasn't true, he changed his story and admitted to phoning and texting the shady business partner at that very time. If the minister isn't for Randy implicated in the alleged fraud, why did he mislead committee?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Yes, Madam Speaker, it's all about character assassination from the Conservatives. Not once, but twice, the minister in question has actually been cleared by the Ethics Commissioner. Having said that, Madam Speaker, instead of attacking personalities day in and day out, maybe the Conservative Party should start listening to what Canadians are wanting to deal with. Why isn't the Conservative Party being a little bit more forthright on what their hidden agenda is really about? Canadians want to see a dental program, a pharmacare program, a school food program, a child care program, and a healthy health program.
Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Madam Speaker, let's get this straight. Text messages implicating Randy. The minister's shady business partner can't identify another Randy. We know that the minister contacted his shady business partner at the time of the alleged fraud, and text messages place the Randy in Vancouver at the same time as the minister. How much evidence is it going to take for the Prime Minister to fire this corrupt minister?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I've already answered that question. And at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, what is it going to take for the Conservative Party and the leader of that far-right Conservative Party to understand that there is an obligation to be responsible here in Ottawa on the floor of the House of Commons, Madam Speaker? That means allowing debates to occur on the important issues that Canadians are facing today. Instead of focusing their attention on the Conservative Party, Madam Speaker, they should be focusing their attention on Canadians.
The member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Well, Madam Speaker, the member dodged the question the first 2 times, so let's give him a third time. The Minister of Employment and his business partner, Stephen Anderson, have refused to cooperate with an investigation into their fraud-ridden company. For months, this minister claimed that he had no communication, that he wasn't the one referenced in the text, and that he had nothing to do with his former business partner. Finally, after relentless pressure, the minister admitted he did text his business partner, and he even called him to discuss their business, something he's prohibited from doing by law. Why did the minister, who claimed he had nothing to hide for months, hide this damning evidence?
The Parliamentary Secretary.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, I've indicated very clearly the Ethics Commissioner, which is an independent office of the House of Commons, has not once but twice cleared the minister. Having said that, Madam Speaker, my challenge to the Conservative Party across the way is to understand that they actually have a responsibility to Canadians that goes beyond serving the Conservative Party of Canada. Madam Speaker, I would suggest that they are doing a great disservice to Canadians in every region of the country by the behaviour that they take day in and day out on the floor of the House of Commons.
Member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Well, Madam Speaker, I would say that this Liberal government has a responsibility to tell Canadians the truth. This minister, only after turning over his phone to the Ethics Commissioner, only after months of relentless pressure, finally admitted that he did indeed talk to his business partner, something he's not allowed to do under law. He admits that they discussed business, and this was after his business partner lied to a parliamentary committee by ridiculously claiming that the 9 references to the minister was just an autocorrect. If the minister can't be trusted to disclose what he called just an innocent conversation, how can he be trusted to be truthful?
The Parliamentary Secretary.
Yes, Madam Speaker, not once, but twice the Ethics Commissioner has cleared the minister. That is the truth. The member makes reference to the truth. Seriously, Madam Speaker, this comes from a Conservative, that ultimately a Conservative Party that spreads so much misinformation and false facts, fake news, you name it, through social media, Madam Speaker. When are they going to start to be honest with Canadians and tell them what their hidden agenda is all about? I'll tell you why, because they know that...
We now know the Prime Minister's friend and media buddy, Tom Clark, was instrumental when it came to purchasing his new $9 million luxury condo on Billionaires Row in New York, a condo which includes Italian marble, a $5,000 coffee machine, and a golf simulator. This as Canadians continue to struggle with an unprecedented cost of living crisis. Will the Liberal government admit there is no justification for Canadian taxpayers having to foot the bill for this lavish condo?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
The truth is, and the fact is simple, that the new residence that has been purchased will cut costs, will save money. On this side of the House, we'll always stand up for Canada and the best interests of Canadians. We'll engage with international leaders. We will continue to do the work that we need to do internationally, diplomatically, while saving taxpayers' money. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
After 9 years of these NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. The Liberals' $60 million Arrive scam exposed contracting fraud on taxpayers, called bait and switch. High-priced consultants overbill, underdeliver, and sometimes don't even do the work. High-priced consultants line their pockets while taxpayers are paying the bills. Canada's contracting watchdog is launching a review. How much contracting fraud will taxpayers be on the hook for, and will the Liberals get Canadians their money back?
Great question.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, we have said time and time again that we expect our procurement process to follow all of the rules and regulations. Any misconduct will come with severe consequences. The CBSA has already implemented a number of measures to strengthen the transparency around procurement processes. They are working with the various commissioners to find additional ways to ensure that when Canadians can have trust in our procurement process with CBSA, and we are supportive of the CBSA's work in this area.
The Honourable Member for Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Madam Speaker, according to media reports, this Liberal government has covered up the contamination of a Transport Canada dock operated in northern Albertan Indigenous communities. The big dock, as it's referred to, is known as a community hub. It's where couples go for a walk, where people fish, where kids go to play and swim. Did this government really cover up the contamination of this dock? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I want to say that safety is my top priority as Minister of Transport, and I hear and understand the concerns from the First Nations communities. It is absolutely crucial for remote and northern and Indigenous communities to have access to safe and reliable connectivity that they need. I will work with them to ensure that the operations at the facility are being carried out safely. The work is ahead of us, and we will make sure that we're on top of it. Thank you.
Almost everyone they arrest is out on bail. No one stays in jail where they belong. And they laugh. This is the president of the Toronto Police Association. Wake up. Every day, Canadians are waking up to more news of shootings and murders. The minister bragged that his bail reform bill would make our streets safer, but the truth is more criminals are out on bail and Canadians are more frightened than ever. This bill is a complete failure. How many more lost lives is it going to take for the government to finally embrace jail, not bail, for serious violence?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Once again, he's pointing in the wrong direction. There are justices of the peace every day in the province of Ontario who are releasing people on bail because of the inhumane conditions.
Can I interrupt the Honourable Member? I had a question. We allow the Parliamentary Secretary to answer. Order! From the top.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Every single day in the province of Ontario, there are justices of the peace who are appointed by the provincial government, who are letting people out on bail because the conditions inside provincially built, provincially funded, and provincially operated prisons are inhumane and not okay for people, even prisoners, to be in. There is judicial decisions by justices of the peace who have considered this fact regularly, and they said until those conditions change, that's going to be a major consideration when they're listening to bail applications.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
The fact is, Madam Speaker, after 9 years of these Liberals, of these NDP Liberals, violent crime in Canada is up 50%. That is their responsibility, Madam Speaker, and it's really no wonder. Police report there are 790 repeat violent offenders just walking the streets in Mississauga and Brampton. Police say almost everyone they arrest is out on bail, yet Liberals have made it very clear, especially yesterday in question period, that they support repeat violent offenders getting bail, no matter what, no matter who gets hurt, Madam Speaker. What is it going to take for the Liberals to realize that their catch and release policies are costing innocent Canadians their lives?
Parliamentary Secretary.
They just don't understand, Madam Speaker. They don't want to understand, Madam Speaker. The laws are in place. They can't be enforced properly because the province is underfunding the system. 1 hour ago, none other than Ben Mulroney was on his podcast, and he said one of the biggest problems is the lack of resources provided by the provincial government in the province of Ontario, and that's why people are getting out on bail. Full stop. They need to pay attention, look in the right direction. The laws here are in place. They stop sensationalizing and be serious.